While one of the most popular video games of all time, most people don't consider Grand Theft Auto a game with a lot of substance, that it's like a shallow kiddie pool full of kabooms and gunfights. But to play the games are to discover that the series is actually a relatively deep pool, full of kabooms and gunfights. It has a lot to say about the world we live in, satirizing modern-day capitalism, fraud, corruption, and hypocrisy. It just doesn't take itself too seriously while doing it, and truthfully, I think Rockstar makes threading that needle look easier than it actually is. This is a series where we analyze each Grand Theft Auto game and what it reflects about the time period it was created in. I did GTA 3 in a previous video, and now we're on to GTA Vice City. Grand Theft Auto Vice City almost exists in a universe separate from our own, an amalgamation of movie references and a nostalgic view of a time period 16 years in the past from its release. It was admittedly a challenge to analyze the historical context that GTA Vice City existed in because there are several layers to what it was reflecting about the United States. I wondered, do I analyze how Vice City reflected the 80s and what was happening then? Do I analyze the decision to lean on nostalgia instead of sticking to a story that fits neatly into the time period that it would be released into? Do I just analyze the movie Scarface? I think the answer to all of the above is yes, because to analyze Vice City is to balance all of those things. And despite such a surface separateness from the early 2000s when it was released and with such a strong comparison to the movie Scarface, the game is also GTA through and through, meaning that there are plenty of satirical references to the United States, pop culture, and the craziness of humankind. It just does so in a haze of neon and against a blaze of a palm tree-lined sunset. I love how the Rockstar team is able to capture a snapshot of life in the United States at a specific time and place. These games forever live on like museum exhibits that we can revisit whenever we want to press play. Let's get behind the glass of Vice City and see what it shows us about the United States. What do you get with $5 million and 9 months? You get Grand Theft Auto Vice City. The Rockstar North team was working on new models and weapons for GTA 3, but quickly decided to just take those concepts and roll them into a new game, which is why they were able to pump out Vice City so quickly. Not all the models were from GTA 3 though, so it was still an incredibly fast turnaround, and there's some noticeable empty spaces on the map that could have just been filled in with more time. But sometimes amazing things are made under pressure, so who's to say if more time really would have been a good call? The development of Vice City really kicked off in 2002, just a few months after GTA 3's release in October of 2001, and would be released in October of 2002. 2 GTAs back to back. Y'all were really eating good in the early 2000s. It's a coin toss if I'm even going to be alive to see GTA 7, if there is going to be a GTA 7. What I think is really amazing is how they were able to develop this game so quickly when they had such a huge, star-studded cast with many schedules to attend with. The game features 8,000 lines of recorded dialogue, 4 times the amount than what was in Grand Theft Auto 3. It contains over 90 minutes of cutscenes and 9 hours of music, with more than 113 songs and commercials. The biggest difference in the two games, besides the settings, is that our protagonist actually speaks. The great Ray Liotta voiced our protagonist Tommy Vercetti. It was actually a lot of fun, he said, of doing the voice of Tommy. There's great people on this one, and I did my homework with it. I know it's a pretty intense game. I was trying to go under the radar with it. The interviewer sees this as Ray's quick wit, that he was joking about going under the radar on the follow-up to a game that was the best-selling game in 2001, selling 1.4 million copies by December. That is 2 months after release. It wasn't all sunshine and roses, though. Ray struggled a bit with doing his first video game role. No, it's not a cakewalk, he said. No way. Because, you want it to seem real. It's a great challenge. You're creating a character that's not there before. I'm the player, so you see my guy, but it's kind of like I'm you or you're me. You're making me move and then talking to this character, or you make a left turn in the game. What makes the game, aside from the graphics, is that you make a left-hand turn and go into a car where there's one scenario that happens. If you make a right-hand turn, there's a whole other different thing. One of the things Ray came up against was having to act with stand-in actors with blue screen. Often there are actors that are hired just to block out the scenes, and he said many of them overacted. Side note, if you aren't familiar with blue screen versus green screen, I wasn't either. Blue screens offer less color spill and are better for darker scenes, blonde hair, or when subjects wear green. Green is more versatile, while blue is superior for cleaner, low-light keying. I love sharing random fun facts. The more you know? Despite the struggle it might have taken to make, I and many GTA fans enjoyed the performance that Ray delivered as Tommy Vercetti, and deservedly is one of the great GTA protagonists to this day. It helps too that he was accompanied by other great actors including Gary Busey, Louise Guzman, Danny Trejo, Corn star Jenna Jameson, William Fichtner, Dennis Hopper, Philip Michael Thomas, and Tom Sizemore. And then even better, Rockstar provided an amazingly designed world for all of these colorful characters to live in. The aesthetic of Vice City is singular, a beautiful combination of the 80s in Miami, Florida, which Vice City is a copy of. Florida would later be changed in the GTA universe to Leonida. They sent the team down to Miami, scouring the place both on foot and with helicopter flyovers. The art director, Aaron Garbutt, shared his memories of making the game, saying, "There were a lot of moments that just clicked. When we first blocked in the map and drove about it for the first time, when we put in helicopters and flew over the city, seeing the dancers in the club, driving down Ocean Drive at night." Of the 80s aesthetic, Aaron said it was the easiest part about making the game. He said, "Like it or loathe it, the 80s was a decade that stood out. Its clothing, culture, music, and general vibe are unmistakable. We all grew up in the 80s and it wasn't hard to tap into that, build on it with some research, and we were most of the way there." The music, of course, is a huge part of the 80s, and they took that seriously in developing the game. Unlike previous games in the series, which relied to a great extent on original creation, GTA Vice City has an overwhelming majority of licensed content with just 5 original songs. There's many licensed songs that are in cutscenes, an essential part of setting the tone of the story, which is much to my dismay, as I did a playthrough of this on my Let's Play channel. Miami/Vice City is itself a perfect place for a game like Grand Theft Auto and the kind of themes that are woven into the entire series. In an interview with Lex Friedman, Dan Houser talks about the excess of glitz, glamour, the famous and the beautiful of Miami Beach next to poverty. Lex said, "I think Miami is one of the most unique cities in the world." Dan said, "Oh yeah." Lex said, "Especially if you're satirizing American culture. There's a duality of this glossy surface and dark underworld. The influencers, crypto bros, yachts, bikinis, plastic surgery, sports cars, drugs, cartel cash, luxury, super rich people, and the desperately poor. Just the whole of it. Would it be the perfect city to explore the full cast of characters that are possible?" Dan says, "I think it's one of them. You know, there's a reason why GTA kept going back to Miami, New York, Los Angeles. I think they're all really good for exactly what you laid out." He also said that they're the best if you want to show a slice of life, like a psychotic version of a Dickens book. And my little English major heart lit up because it is exactly like that. Charles Dickens is so important in literature because he is one of the best at capturing what life was like in England with his varied cast of characters. Just beautiful stuff. Dan Houser, let's be pals. In the end, Rockstar had done it again. Vice City became the best-selling game of 2002 and one of the best-selling PlayStation 2 games of all time with 14.2 million copies sold. It has sold over 17.5 million copies overall. The story begins not in Vice City, but back in Liberty City at a table of the leaders of the Forelli crime family, led by Sonny Forelli. Our protagonist, Tommy Vercetti, Ray Liotta, is released from prison after serving a 15-year sentence for murder, taking the fall for the mafia. In the opening scene, the mafia leaders are discussing what to do with him and that he's going to be a problem. Interested in expanding their reach to the south, they decide to send Tommy down to establish their influence for them, planning to later pay him a visit. Tommy loyally does so, arriving in Miami with a bunch of Forelli cash and 2 other goons from the gang, and are picked up by the Forelli contact in the city, a corrupt and goofy lawyer named Ken Rosenberg. Together they go to a drug deal that is supposed to start this new branch of the Forelli empire, except the entire deal goes terribly wrong, an ambush killing the 2 men with Tommy, and Tommy barely escapes with his life. The Forelli cash and the drugs he was supposed to buy lost. Ken is freaking out, as he usually does, and tells Tommy to get some sleep and come back the next day. Your first safe house in the game is set on the iconic Ocean Avenue at the Ocean View Hotel. At the hotel, Tommy makes a call to Sonny to give him the bad news, which he does not take well. Not really concerned at all that Tommy almost died, Sonny demands to know what happened to the money. Tommy promises that he'll fix it, that he'll get the money and drugs back, and maybe even a side of revenge as interest. Sonny doesn't seem fully convinced, but Tommy is given some time to sort things out. The next day, Ken is still freaking out, but he gives Tommy a lead into the criminal underbelly of Vice City and who might have ambushed the deal. An invitation to a party hosted on Colonel Juan Garcia Cortez's yacht. The colonel helped set up the deal, and the guests in attendance will be all of Vice City's big players. Tommy arrives at the boat and meets Cortez and his daughter Mercedes. The 2 circle the party, and Mercedes tells Tommy who's who. One of the men is Ricardo Diaz, who Mercedes calls Mr. Coke. Once Diaz notices her, Mercedes acts as if she and Tommy were just leaving, asking Tommy to take her to the pole position club. With no leads, Tommy returns to Ken at his office. Ken then suggests talking to Kent Paul, who works in the music industry and can usually be found at the Malibu Club. Tommy finds him there and takes about 5 seconds of Kent's attitude before assaulting him, finally getting an actual answer out of him about drugs being sold in Vice City. Apparently, there's a chef near Ocean Drive that is selling drugs in a back alley. The chef in question does even worse with Tommy than Kent did. He gets beat to death. Tommy does get his phone, though. Just as more chefs, knives at the ready, begin to circle, Tommy is approached by a stranger who laughs at Tommy's aggressive strategy for getting information. When Tommy gets testy with him, the man assures Tommy that they are after the same thing. He hands Tommy a gun and they escape the angry chefs together. On the phone that Tommy stole, he gets a new lead. The caller mentions a drug deal and Ricardo Diaz, who Tommy met on the boat. Tommy does some work for both Colonel Cortez and his associates.
Tommy, you are like a pompous breeze that has freed me from the stench of corruption.
Including real estate mogul Avery Carrington. This is where we get a cameo from Donald Love, who took Avery's advice that there is nothing better for real estate like a gang war to heart.
Now, nothing brings down real estate prices quicker than a good old-fashioned gang war. Except maybe a disaster like a biblical plague or something, but that may be going too far in this case. You getting this down, you four-eyed prick?
A real estate mogul whose journey both includes Florida and New York City. That does sound familiar, huh? Working for Colonel Cortez earns his trust, and after a few missions, Cortez asks Tommy to help oversee a deal that Diaz is part of. In an alleyway, Tommy once again runs into the mysterious man who finally introduces himself as Lance. Together they watch over the deal, which is ambush. Seems to be just part of the job. Tommy and Lance protect Diaz from Haitian gang members. When one of the gang members manages to take the deal money and escape on a bike, Tommy chases him down and gets it back. Not long after completing this mission, Tommy gets a call from Diaz who asks if he will work for him. This is where the plot really thickens. Diaz is a lunatic, each of his missions starting with him taking his anger out on inanimate objects or birds, often with guns. As Tommy does jobs for him, it becomes glaringly obvious that Diaz was the one who ambushed the deal. This becomes clear also to Lance, who reveals that his brother was killed in that ambush. Lance repeatedly appeals to Tommy to exact his revenge, but Tommy is trying to take things cautiously, saying, "The more we learn now, the less we have to learn when we take this town over." Lance Vance absolutely does not listen to this and attempts to kill Diaz. His attempt gets him kidnapped and tied up at this construction site. Tommy rescues him, breaking his own cover in the process, which leaves him with no choice but taking Diaz out. Tommy and Lance storm Diaz's mansion and do a little hostile takeover. With a power vacuum in place in Vice City, there is room for a new leader. Tommy meets with Lance, Avery, and Ken to brainstorm how to cement their leadership in Vice City. Avery suggests using legitimate fronts to launder money, while Lance is more concerned about local businesses refusing to pay their usual protection money after Diaz's death. Tommy's answer, of course, is to use force and intimidation. He sends his message to local business owners by vandalizing storefronts at the local mall. Not long after this, Tommy gets a call from Sonny, who tells him that he's aware of Tommy's recent moves and that he's not off the hook. Tommy, as the new top dog, begins buying assets around the city that will generate revenue. At this point in the story, Tommy begins getting calls from a desperate Lance who is worried that he's not getting a fair slice of the business. Tommy plainly tells him that he needs to be less sloppy and then maybe things can change, and this does not soothe Lance's paranoia in the slightest. As Tommy builds up enough capital, he buys even more businesses, including a movie studio, a taxi firm, an auto dealer, an ice cream company, which used to be run by this very nice old lady, and the Pole Position Club. The two businesses that are essential for progressing the story are the Malibu Club and Printworks. The former becomes a secondary base of operations where Tommy gathers a crew for a bank heist with the help of Ken Rosenberg. At Printworks, we meet a sweet old man named Ernest who helps Tommy make the business into a counterfeit operation. Tommy gets a call from Ken, who says there's a problem down at Printworks. When Tommy arrives, Ernest says he was attacked by mobsters. It turns out that Sonny has sent his guys to steal from Tommy's businesses. After clearing that mess up in his own violent way, Tommy is asked to return to the mansion, where Ken reveals that Sonny will soon be personally paying them a visit. Tommy's plan is to give Sonny $20 million in counterfeit cash and make sure that Sonny understands that his new empire in Vice City belongs to him alone. When Sonny arrives, he reveals some interesting new details about how Tommy came to be imprisoned. Tommy was sent to kill one man, but found 11 men waiting for him. Despite being set up by Sonny, Tommy killed all of them, earning him the nickname the Harwood Butcher. Sonny gets increasingly agitated during the meeting, eventually revealing that Lance has sold Tommy out and spilled the beans about his plans to double-cross Sonny with the fake cash. In the climax of the story, Tommy defends his mansion from waves of Sonny's men who are trying to get to his safe on the top floor. While this is an obvious reference to the final scene of Scarface, Tommy is able to kill both Lance and Sonny. The game ends with Tommy and Ken in an iconic scene, walking down the stairs and basking in their victory. Vice City is theirs. Mostly Tommy's. Don't get too excited, Ken. The game is referential, the most referential of the GTA series. The game says as much about America as the action movies of the 80s did. So part of my research for this video was consuming a quick and dirty education in 80s action media. I watched Scarface, Miami Vice, Carlito's Way, and Rambo, which was a lot of violence to absorb in a weekend. Action movies define the 80s, romanticizing war and conflict in an interesting shift from the anti-war protests of the 60s and 70s. This is called the pendulum effect, which is the tendency of systems, trends, or behaviors to swing in opposite extremes, often overcorrecting from one extreme to another before settling. So we got the peace-loving hippies of the 70s and swung into the 80s where grizzled and oiled men covered movie screens. I also have to discuss that this game was developed in the aftermath of 2001. In many ways, this game has more influence from the terrorist attack than GTA 3, which had to undergo last-second changes due to the game being set in a replica of New York City. As one of the first acts of violence that has occurred on the United States soil since Pearl Harbor in the 1940s, the country was noticeably and understandably shaken. Like the pendulum effect to action movies in the 80s, the people in 2001 craved escapism in the aftermath of such a tragedy. Like I discussed in the GTA 3 video, many of the movies that topped box offices in the first decade of the 2000s were often action and comedies. Something separate from current affairs, something to get people to laugh. Vice City's bright and colorful branding, plus its movie-like separateness from current times, means to me that Rockstar was trying to provide a form of escapism, especially with Dan Houser talking about his feeling of nostalgia for the 80s and boiling that into the DNA of this game. Nostalgia is one of the most powerful forms of escapism. Nostalgia alone is a good enough reason to choose the 80s as a time period to set Vice City in, but there's something about the 80s, in Miami, that tells a particular tale about the United States. The excess and wealth, the partying, it's the American dream dangling before our eyes. The movies that Dan Houser reflected as influences, Scarface and Carlito's Way, tell a truly American story, a man, often an immigrant, making his own empire from nothing but his own grit. That story has been told 1,000 times over, and we'll see it play out again later on in the GTA series, but there are many different ways to tell that story. You could focus on the darkness, the odds stacked against your main character, or you could focus on the wish fulfillment aspect. In Scarface, we see the price of rising to the top through violence and lawlessness, that kind of life is often not sustainable. The ending of Scarface and Vice City are almost the same, except for how it turns out for our protagonist. Tommy is a winner. He is tough and he overcomes whatever people throw at him. Often in Rockstar games, the protagonist pays for their crime-ridden lifestyle in one way or another, but not Tommy. The choice to have a happy, victorious ending for our character fits within the picture that we're building of Vice City being about escapism, like a vacation to Florida. Tommy winning despite the violence he commits doesn't feel like Rockstar co-signing crime or capitalism. The game is still littered with satire about capitalism, identity politics, celebrity culture. It's just delivered at a lower frequency than some of the other games. There's nothing really about politics in the main story, not in the way we get police corruption and gang commentary in San Andreas, or the influence of government agencies in GTA 5, or, the entire bleak story of GTA 4. But it can be found throughout, especially if you set your frequency to the right channels. Yeah, I'm talking about Vice City's talk radio. We are blessed in Vice City with not one, but 2 talk radio stations, K-Chat and VCPR, Vice City Public Radio. You might be wondering where Laszlo is. He's hosting the rock station, so we don't get to talk about him in this video. K-Chat is hosted by Amy Scheckenhausen, I don't think I'm saying that right, and is where we get a lot of commentary on celebrity culture. She interviews members of Scottish rock band Love Fist, and animal show hosts, nonfiction book authors, actors, and a professional NFL player. VCPR is where we get commentary on public craziness with their one and only show, Pressing Issues. There's about 3 hours of talk radio and a half hour of commercials, so there's a ton for us to dig through. Like I said earlier, I feel like the political commentary in Vice City has been set to a low simmer. There's politicians that are called out by name, notably both Margaret Thatcher, who served as Prime Minister of the United Kingdom from 1979 to 1990, and Ronald Reagan, the source of all our problems, the 40th President of the United States from 1981 to 1989. Those two names remind us of the distance between the game and present day, which gives the game plausible deniability that any critique of the United States government is about the country in the past tense. Which means GTA Vice City can still make its comments, but maybe a little bit on the lighter side, and keeps the feeling of escapism alive. We see this on K-Chat when Amy interviews a member of Love Fist.
Is that because the new album didn't do so well in the UK?
It's that fascist Thatcher. I sing about working class people trying to make it through a tough life. I sing about the things they want. Trashing hotel rooms, wearing glitter in your eyes, and waking up in a ditch next to a totaled sports car. When you make minimum wage, love conquers all. Know what I mean, Sheila?
What did I say about escapism when times are tough? Very on the nose here, Rockstar. Later on in the interview, Jez says,
Jez, you were telling me about the music?
Aye, yeah. You know, we wear these costumes to appeal to the working man, because after you spend the day working in a steel mill, you want to wear tight leather clothes and play air guitar. That's what we're about.
My theory is that they're using the 80s as a form of escapism in the aftermath of 9/11, and here is an 80s rock star talking about providing the working class with some glitz and glamour as escapism. In a later interview with a local college professor about her book, where she goes undercover as a man to write about what she witnessed, we get this little tidbit.
I bet this radio station is owned by a man. White male conservatives monopolize the media, selecting right-wing blondes to propagate conservatism.
I don't have blonde hair.
Not yet, Amy.
Now, who could they be talking about? Not a later parodied Weasel News, could it? See, like I said, still kind of poking fun at politics, but in like a lighter, sillier way. We also get this commercial called Is Your Child a Red, which seems like it is timely to the Red Scare, but is still a problem plaguing American politics to this day. The dramatic hatred of anything that resembles communism.
What's this I found under your bed? The only Engels you're going to read is Laura Ingalls Wilder.
If you think your child might be a red, here are some warning signs. They read complicated literature and have concern for their fellow man. They even like to share. Tell your kids if someone approaches them with pamphlets about recycling, an invitation to a labor rally, or showing any doubts about the fairness of our system, then they should find a teacher or a policeman immediately.
We get this sentiment again on VCPR, just shoved into a very long rant.
It's one thing to love something, but if you don't shower it with money, then just don't talk to me. Communism, don't make me puke my guts out, please.
He was asked about Thanksgiving, by the way. But most of the commentary is awash in the generally upbeat and colorful vibe of Vice City. There's a lot that's just silly, like Mr. Zoo, a GTA version of Steve Irwin, doing naughty things with the dolphin and then his doctor coming to get him.
Never trust a judge or a mental health tribunal. Never. Only trust animals.
Okay, and what did they make you say?
Nothing, babe. Oh, it was a long time ago. Look, I bought a little surprise for you. It's a little female plague rat.
There's also these commercials for nursing homes, a Florida specialty.
Howdy. Welcome to Farewell Ranch. They say the golden years are the best years of your life, but for many seniors, they just stink up the house and make the grandkids feel uncomfortable with unwanted affection.
In line with the optimism of the story, the host of VCPR's Pressing Issues says that they're living in an optimistic time.
These are optimistic times we're living in, a time of go-getters and doers. Our hero is the entrepreneur, the shaker and the maker. Positive thinking, we are told, is everything. Think it, and we can do it.
And then later on in the segment, this guest talks about thinking his way to success.
You thought your way to success. It's a 3-step program based on studying successful people.
Really fitting into this picture of the bright and shiny, although maybe plastic, American dream. This is the grift, just like the American dream. Just like the pastor selling salvation to those who help him pay for his giant statue. Just like the guest who blunt forces her positivity on VCPR, it seems happy, but that's not entirely the case. And most of the time requires a supreme amount of suppression and denial.
Okay, wow, you're psychotic and dosed up to the eyeballs on tranquilizers.
If it's psychotic to be happy, then I guess I am.
Or maybe it's just based on material goods.
Do you have any idea at all how great it feels to wake up and realize you're a rich and talented, important person and in a waterbed with mirrors on the ceiling and more girls than you can imagine?
This is from an entire section of Pressing Issues that talks about positivity and the perception of it. I already had my take on Vice City being about escapism before I re-listened to this, but this is just more nails in the coffin. Of all the things for them to discuss, it's about positivity and the perception of it. There's also a good amount of satire in this game about gender and identity politics. How Grand Theft Auto portrays women could be a video unto itself, and maybe I'll eventually do a deeper dive on it once I'm done going through this series. There's a lot about feminism and being a man in this game. They're both sides of the same coin. Gender norms historically harm women more, as women have been structurally restricted from having the same freedoms of men, but they hurt men as well. The limited framework of what it means to be a man is dangled over men's heads from the moment they're born, told what to like and who they have to be. I think all people lose when they're forced into boxes they don't fit in. And this might come as a surprise to some, but I think that's exactly how GTA feels too. If you would have told me a year ago that GTA actually doesn't have a bad take on women, I would not have believed you. I mean, yes, they make the women walk like this in this game, but, it's all about balance. Let's listen to this part of K-Chat where Amy interviews that local college professor who dressed up as a man.
Now, it says here you wanted to be a man so much, you dressed up like one.
Well, that's a load of crap, my dear. More misogynistic propaganda. I hate men. Can't bear them. I think they're a complete waste of time and space, quite frankly, and a disaster for the planet.
Me too. I just got dumped.
Oh, well, it is unfortunate you measure your self-worth in relation to a man, my dear. Look at you. You could be an attractive girl. If you did some physical labor, cut your hair short, grew out your body hair, and wore boots, for example, you mustn't get sucked into their heteropatriarchy.
But I like dating. Having someone buy you dinner is great.
Well, we'll come back to you and your problems, accepting who you really are. Let's talk about me a bit more.
Did you hear that? The problems accepting who you really are. Michaela, the professor, is being put forward as someone to laugh at, someone ridiculous, so we know that Rockstar does not agree with her takes here. We aren't laughing at her because she's a woman, we're laughing at her because she's showing us how ridiculous it is to try to force someone into an ideal that doesn't align with who they are. This is made very clear later on when we get this caller.
Michaela, I'm a huge fan.
Are you?
Yes, you've really changed my life. Before I heard you speak a couple of times, I was getting into the feminist movement, but in sort of a silly way.
Really?
Yeah, burning my bra, beating a policeman, shooting my dad and stuff. Just playing around, I didn't really understand the feelings I was having.
Ah, I know, the wearisome troubles of the half-hearted.
Then, after listening to you, I realized what a load of crap it was.
Excuse me?
I realized what a load of crap it was. You can't hate men just because they're different. You can't hate anyone just because they're different. You have to work with them. Luckily, I needed a moronically pretentious, overeducated, hair-lipped old harridan like you to show me how stupid I was being. I mean, we're all just people, and it's idiots like you who cause the problems in this world in the name of reclaiming some false ideal.
But we also see it the other way around. Later on, Amy interviews NFL player BJ.
I do. Jeez, get over yourself. You must have a testosterone imbalance like all those jocks who shower with other men.
We also get this conversation with Danny Trejo's character.
He call you dumb, son. And I call him a little girl, Papi. Look at him, all dressed up like that. What is this, ladies' night? You some kind of tough guy? You dress like a woman? You got on panties like a woman too, huh?
What do you got against women? You prefer men, big boy?
I like women. I like all women. I love my mother, Chico.
All right, I'll take your word for it. Relax.
Can you drive, amigo?
Yeah, like a woman.
Very funny. I like you, big boy. Maybe you can help. Maybe you can prove you're a man, huh? Take out the boat. Show me you got some big cojones. And not some little bitty chiquita ones.
Both sides of the gender conformity coin are exaggerated. Both are being laughed at. That's what satires, which GTA is, do. Satires present insane and exaggerated situations, conversations, and ideals, which makes us laugh, but we can see where the glimmer of truth is amongst it, and it makes us see those things in a different light. That's what I think GTA does most of the time with the exaggerated caricatures that are their women characters. On first glance, it seems like they're playing into the sexist tropes and wish fulfillment, but I think if you look at GTA in its totality and the kind of statements that are woven throughout, it views men and women as equals, and you're supposed to be laughing at how society paints women. That might be me extending a bit of grace towards GTA, and I mean, this is the same Rockstar that made Red Dead Redemption, with amazing female characters like Sadie Adler. The difference between the two is that GTA is a satire, so that's why I think that the women jokes are all wrapped up under that satire umbrella. I'm very excited to see what happens with GTA 6 and its potentially first playable female protagonist. But first, let's finish this Vice City video. Vice City is an interesting game amongst the lineup of Grand Theft Auto. It's an homage to a time that the creators grew up in, a nostalgic look back with memories to guide, more of what the time period felt like than what it really was. I think that is why Vice City has such a strong, singular vibe. It's like a daydream. In our memories, especially of our childhood, the details boil down to how things feel, the biggest aspects becoming even bigger. Nostalgia, wish fulfillment, the bright colors and the synth-laden music, even the drug of choice of the 80s, of Miami, and this game, brings about a rush of euphoria, a rush that doesn't last. Vice City is electric like the neon of Ocean Drive, like a daydream of what the American dream can be. The money dangling over our heads that if we could just have, it would solve all our problems. In this story, it does. But that's only one story, and GTA has more to tell. In the next video, we'll be hopping across the country to California and a little bit in the future to 1992, 5 years before the events of GTA 3. Like and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching.